Hi, my name is Alice Wong, and I'm here to talk to you about the Disability Visibility Project and community partnership with StoryCorps. But first, I'd like to give a shout out to Allie Cannington and thank her for inviting me to speak with you all at this workshop today. And I'd also like to thank Becca Coakley of NCD for connecting me with Allie. So first, what I'll do is share a little bit about my story and then talk about how storytelling has become a pretty important part of my life. And then I'll give a brief overview of the Disability Visibility Project. And at this point, I'm going to switch to slides for this presentation. So, who am I and what do I do? I currently wear a couple of hats right now. I'm the founder and project coordinator for the Disability Visibility Project, which you'll hear about later. I'm a council member of the National Council on Disability, an independent federal agency focused on disability policy. And I work as a staff research associate at the Community Living Policy Center. I guess I'm what you call middle-aged. I'm 41 years old. Some of you might find that ancient, and I have to agree with you. My body certainly feels ancient. When I was born in the 1970s, my doctor told my parents that I wouldn't live past 30, so I had a difficult time as a kid imagining myself at 41, 51, or 61. Who would I become, and what kind of world I would live in? My neuromuscular condition is progressive, meaning I become physically weaker over time. This meant going through a lot of changes in my needs and the kinds of devices and services that would help me thrive. However, those weren't the most difficult challenges. The difficult times were emotional and social. They were often due to the shitty attitudes and discrimination I experienced from all kinds of people. My fellow students, teachers, other adults, you name it. I became so frustrated and angry for much of my life. I didn't understand why people saw me in such limited ways. I had so much internalized ableism that I was pretty embarrassed to hang out around other wheelchair users or other people with visible disabilities until I got older and went to college. I was a real jerk and snob when I was young. The concept of disability pride was foreign to me until I learned about disability studies and history as an undergraduate and in graduate school. Anger can actually become a really powerful motivation. It can provide energy and motivate a person to do something constructive. Rather than turning anger internally into a destructive force, anyone can choose to use anger to enact social change. I believe social and disability justice can start with anger, and that resistance towards systemic oppression. It's what you do with your anger that matters. And this is why storytelling can be so powerful. I'm glad all of you are here at this workshop, sharing your stories and learning from others. Storytelling, in my opinion, is a lot of things. It's an act of claiming your identity and the spaces you occupy. It's an act of resistance, challenging the status quo. It's an act of truth-telling, allowing you to be honest and vulnerable. It's an act of cultural transmission, to future generations, letting them know we were here and this is how we lived. There are a lot of individual benefits to this activity. You might feel really good after telling your story. It can be a cathartic experience. Storytelling can be a tool to build community with people with shared experiences and with other communities who can benefit from greater understanding. Some of you might think, geez, I don't know what to talk about. My life isn't exciting at all. I don't even know what my story is. And that's okay. Stories can and should be about the little, big, mundane, extraordinary, and things in life and everything in between. As long as you express your beliefs and feelings, your story can focus on what you care about in this world and what you think matters. About 5 years ago, I submitted a video featuring my story on disability advocacy and the Asian American Pacific Islander experience for the What's Your Story challenge by the White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. It was my first attempt at telling my story to the public, and I didn't think it was particularly special. I mean, I'm not anyone famous, but I was motivated to tell my story because I rarely saw disabled people of color who are out and proud within the AAPI community and the disability community. I know we're out there, but I didn't see many in positions of leadership or with platforms where they can sound off on what matters. This invisibility frustrated me, especially the lack of acknowledgement that within every community there's a rich diversity of intersectional identities and experiences. I had a lot of fun editing the video and learning how to post captions onto YouTube, and it ended up being a finalist in the competition. What's really amazing is that by putting myself out there, by valuing my own story, the White House Office of Public Engagement became aware of me through that video. The act of telling my story led me to becoming a presidential appointee to the National Council on Disability. It was never my intention to expect anything from the video, but that's what happened. Over time, I told my stories in other formats. Because I'm a big-time nerd, I wrote my origin story when I became a contributor to a website called the Nerds of Color that prominently featured my disability identity, titled A Mutant from Planet Krypton in Origin. In 2013, an essay I wrote was republished in a Tumblr called Letters to Thrive, which is a Tumblr featuring letters written by disabled women to their younger selves. Here's a brief excerpt of my letter to my younger self. I know you're tired, and there are times when life sucks a lot. You may not believe it, but when you grow up, you're going to have so much fun and do many exciting things. The world is going to open up for you. Laws like the Americans with Disabilities Act and programs such as Medicaid, personal care services are going to help you live your life the way you want. Most importantly, you will be in control and will have numerous choices. You're going to live in the greatest city in the world, San Francisco, and become a coffee fiend. You're going to become a notorious night owl. Just hang in there, keep reading, and stay angry. That's an example of one of my, I guess you can call it, ADA stories. Once I joined Twitter, it provided me another avenue to tell my story. I connected with some really cool disabled people and participated in various chats on disability issues. I used Storify to document some of those conversations so that other people can check out those tweets. Twitter is a great way to amplify voices on a particular theme. For example, I co-hosted a Twitter chat with a disabled feminist from Nairobi talking about women with disabilities on International Women's Day this year. For fun, I live tweeted the first episode of Daredevil on Netflix with other disabled people where we discussed disability representation and the lack of audio description for blind Netflix users. Currently, I'm partnering with Nicole on the hashtag Our ADA Story social media campaign that'll last until July 26th. I think you'll hear more details about this later on during the workshop. Clearly, there are many ways a person can tell their story. It can be a selfie, a blog post, a podcast, a tweet, or an oral history. This leads me to the Disability Visibility Project, a grassroots campaign I launched last July, encouraging people with disabilities to record their oral histories at StoryCorps in celebration of the upcoming 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act in July 2015. Many disability organizations and communities plan to hold different events marking the anniversary of the ADA, and this is my small contribution to these efforts that will hopefully leave a legacy for future generations to come. Our project is a community partnership with StoryCorps, and StoryCorps is one of the largest oral history projects of its kind. Millions listen to their weekly broadcasts on NPR's Morning Edition and additional stories on their website. Please note that the Disability Visibility Project is merely a community partnership. We do not have any formal relationship with StoryCorps, nor do we speak for or represent StoryCorps in any way. Here are a few goals of the Disability Visibility Project: to document the zeitgeist of Americans with disabilities, to preserve these stories and make them available to the public as an educational and historical resource, to highlight the voices and experiences of people with disabilities by people with disabilities, and to recognize the breadth of the diversity in the disability communities across the country, especially the intersections of communities of color, LGBTQ, immigrants, veterans, just to name a few. Our project does not provide any guidelines on topics to discuss. Participants don't even have to mention the ADA. The primary goal is to center the conversation on the lived experience of disability. Here's a brief description of how StoryCorps works. StoryCorps is located in San Francisco, Chicago, Atlanta, and a mobile tour that travels all over the country. Participants make a reservation by phone or online from the StoryCorps website. StoryCorps interviews are conducted between two people who know and care about each other. The interview can be more of an informal conversation depending on the two people. A trained facilitator guides the participants through the interview process. At the end of each 40-minute recording session, participants receive a CD copy of their interview. With their permission, a second copy is archived at the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. Participants can use and share their recordings however they see fit. In April of this year, StoryCorps came out with an app for iPhone or Android smartphones. This means anyone with an access to a smartphone can record a story for the DVP. All you have to do is download the app, create an account, and make sure to tag your recording with the keyword Disability Visibility Project before uploading your story to the cloud. For more information, please check the How to Participate section of our website. We are extremely excited to reach even more people with this app. The slogan of the Disability Visibility Project is recording disability history one story at a time. You may wonder, why is this important? The Disability Visibility Project believes disabled lives matter, and each person has a story of value. Going beyond the well-known names in the disability rights movement, this project provides an opportunity for people with disabilities to come together and have a conversation about their lives unfiltered, where they are in control of their own narratives. Our stories rarely appear in textbooks, and when they appear in the media or in popular culture, it's through a lens where disability is still seen in extremes, as something to be pitied and feared, or something heroic and inspirational. Both extremes overlooking the rich complexity and nuance of actual lives. I hope after today's workshop, you'll consider telling people you know about the DVP and encourage them to interview one another and upload their stories using our new StoryCorps app, or go in person to one of the StoryCorps locations. For some blog posts featuring excerpts from some interviews, check out our website, disabilityvisibilityproject.com. And for any questions or comments, feel free to reach me by email at alicat155@gmail.com, or you can tweet me at DISVISIBILITY. More information on StoryCorps can be found at StoryCorps.org. Thank you so much.